it occurred to me that a decade, a 40th birthday, is a good chance to reflect. Funny enough, it corresponds almost to the day that I started dowsing, but I don't claim any kudos for the way the society's got to in that time. That's purely coincidental. But I thought it was a good time to look back a little bit on where dowsing has come from, how we go about our business in this day and age, and perhaps speculate or look at what we might consider going forward. Now, how does that sound as a proposition? Good. Because I can hardly wait to hear what I've got to say today, because I'm not sure. Because it could go in all sorts of directions. If you work in the shamanic worlds and other worlds, all sorts of interesting things happen along the way. But the starting point for my questioning was certain fundamentals. Now, I'm not going to be answering these today, but what I want to do is leave them hanging for consideration for everybody as a community. So I've got some propositions right at the end. What is our identity and purpose as Dowsers? Now, what do I mean by that? Who are we collectively? Do we have a collective identity, or are we all individuals? Not me. And what values actually bind us? And how do we work in with other energetic communities? Are we detectives? Are we healers? What are the responsibilities and ethical standards that we should be adopting given the current state of affairs in the globe? Environmentally, politically, social justice. We have standards, of course, and ethics in the organisation, but how can we nuance them going forward? To whom are we being of service? That's kind of a grail question, isn't it, really? I feel like a knight from Monty Python should ride through at this moment. But to whom who are we serving? Are we serving a highest good? We often hear this term, the highest good. What do we mean by that? Are we serving our higher self? Are we serving a divine force? And who are the beneficiaries of all of this? Are we just, at the end of the day, are we just sticky beats who love pendulums? I don't know. Or are we seeking to make a contribution on a grander scale? What sort of tools and techniques are we using? And I throw out the challenge to everybody to maybe have a think about this, what dowsing tools we use, and what processes we follow, and what prospects are there for expanding the scope of dowsing as we go forward. What sort of self-reflection? I remember it was the Cuban Missile Crisis in 1963. That was a crisis, and we seem to be having crisis after crisis ever since that point in time, of one sort. So this is our lived reality at this stage of the proceedings. What sort of skill building and growth do we need to consider going forward? Can you hear me okay at the back? All good? Fantastic. Now, one of the first things I want to point out is that we're part of a long lineage. You know, often as a dowser, you're confined to the spooky corner at family gatherings and parties. And the conversation with friends can be a bit tricky on occasions as we introduce this as a topic of interest to us. But we go back way, way back. And in recent times, you can see the top right corner there, that's a picture that was taken from a cave in Algeria, which is prehistoric, about 7,000 or 8,000 years ago, which shows a number of characters clearly with what looks like a dowsing rod. We know that in ancient Egypt, we have records of dowsing being used with split reeds to find water. In China, the etching on the left there is of Chinese Emperor Kuang-Sung. I hope that's right. My Cantonese is non-existent, really. But that around 2200 before current era was a dowser, using dowsing in feng shui and those sorts of things. Middle Ages, we know dowsers were heavily employed in looking for minerals, copper, silver, often with some prejudice attached, but it persisted. And through into the late 1900s, through into the current century. It became a little bit more formalised in the 1800s, and it had things like British troops in India searching for water in arid zones, dowsers in America helping people locate water sources and the likes. And so on into the 21st century. Now, I'm not going to spend too much time on this because I got totally absorbed as I went back and looked at what the origins were of so many of the techniques and things we employ today. And just run your eyes down the list of names, because I haven't got time to go into all of them today. But I do, Helen, librarians here, we've probably got works in the library on a lot of these people here. But going back right the way to the 17th century, Jacques-Aimé Vernet, French Dowser, who specialised in looking for criminals and finding criminals, and was used extensively by the Parisian police. This is not a new thing. Baron Reichenbach, who spoke about the odic force, a hypothetical energy, or auric force, a bit boo-hooed in the day, but was a basis of energy dowsing. Abbé Alexis Mermet, pictured here with his face, a French priest. Those blokes would have done well in Movember, wouldn't they? Look at them. Who was finding lost objects, finding people, finding water resources, and so on and so forth. And we'll just skip through a few more, just to honour them on this occasion. Or maybe we won't. There we go. That black slide was there for all those dowsers who never received any fame, but we wanted to remember them today with that moment. Raymond Wheeler was the founder of the American Society of Dowsers, British Dowser, and he actually really got dowsing across the line in America as a serious scientific concern, yes? Thomas Lethbridge, ley lines, guy under with the same. Bert Jansen, Dutch dowser, specialises in crop circles and that intersection with those human energies. Hannah Kroeger, a German born, but lived in America, really got the whole, in my reading of it, the whole notion of medical dowsing up and running. She was a herbalist and was one of the very first to use the pendulum to look at causes and effect and remedies, and carried that on. Elizabeth Brown, pictured, whose wonderful book, The Ultimate Guide to Dowsing, the 21st Century, I recommend to anybody who comes to do some dowsing with me. John, there you go. Susan Collins from Canada, wonderful dowser. Sig Longren, who coined the term spiritual dowsing, which we're going to be talking about quite a bit today, and so on and so forth. Christopher Bird there was the co-author of The Secret Life of Plants. Anybody know that book, with Peter Tompkins? Yeah? Wonderful book about plant consciousness, and he used his dowsing to investigate plant consciousness, something I've been using in my research for decades now, and marvellous book. Addy Two Owls. I put Addy in because he's a marvellous indigenous shamanic practitioner from America who uses dowsing in earth healing in a modern sense. So you can see we come from a long and illustrious lineage in many things. Like Hamish Miller, who I'm sure Hamish may get a mention today. Michael and Mary lines in the UK. I had a pair of Hamish's rods, and unfortunately they decided to leave me at one point at the time. Joey Korn, I had a privilege of attending a seminar just a couple of weeks ago with Joey where he was talking about the power of blessing and how we use that with dowsing. Incredibly powerful technique. And I want to talk a little bit about that going forward. Raymond Grace, of course, often appears in our fantastic newsletter. Woo! Go, Raymond. And, of course, Alana Moore's here today. Yeah, coming speaking with Lars, you there? Hello, Alana. How you going? There you go. There you go later. A wonderful dowser who's influenced many of us through her magnificent work, GSE, Power Towers and all the likes, and we're going to have the privilege of hearing her speak a little bit later on today, and countless others. Now let's not forget dowsers from within the society itself. I think a 40th birthday is a good time to remember this. The dowsers of the year from New South Wales, Frank, Henry and Esther Deans, sadly deceased, and Peter Runkoff. His wife Jane's with us today. Peter's marvellous work with geopathic stress and river rocks I still use at this very moment, and I know Jane's still teaching the technique. Very effective. This is why dowsing hangs around, right? Because it works. Okay? We're not here under false pretenses. Pauline Roberts. Pauline, I had the privilege of getting some tuition from Pauline at the turn of the century, I think, way back. Yeah? Marvellous, marvellous teacher. Trevor Harding. Well, Trevor Harding's your man for vortexes. That's absolutely sure. I didn't realise what sort of big role they played until I did some work with Trevor years ago. Francois, of course, here with us today, and we'll be presenting a little bit long, not only an Australian expert on ley lines, but in my view, a world expert from the reading and the presentations I've seen over the years. Robert Gawler, of course, we heard speak earlier on, and what a fantastic presentation that was. And the wonderful Ray Heller, who's left us to explore other realms. And sorry? Oh, I miss Maggie! Oh, Maggie, I'm so sorry! I was coming back to Maggie, because Maggie is amazing, right? The senior tutor for the organisation, who's taught countless generations to Dowse and continues to do so. And how privileged we are to have all these people contributing to our body of knowledge. So I just wanted to use that occasion to thank all those people for all that they've done.